This bottom board here and this horizontal piece are rotten, basically all the way down. They're proving pretty challenging to remove. This is just face nailed into this 2x6-ish, but it really doesn't want to come out. It's also nailed down through the top here. This piece, every time I try to get a nail out, it destroys the wood because it's all rotten. But this is tucked under the siding. You can kind of see over here, that's tucked under there. And oh, it's just not coming out. So I think I'm gonna cut this into maybe like 2-foot sections and then kind of just pry it out that way. I also need to get that hose bib out of here. It leaks, so we wanted to replace it anyways, so it seems like a good time. I got the first few feet out. This is extremely time consuming. In general, actually, these boards are pretty solid, but the bottom of that 1x6 is all gone from being just splashed on from the ground. And it's not so bad right here, but as you get farther down the wall, kind of past that bush, they both get really, really soggy. We had just had a lot of rain yesterday, but as I'm prying on these things, you know, it's like water is just pouring out of this wood as I squeeze it with the tools. So, but the thing is, I need to get this out, and I need to be able to measure to cut new pieces. So I may use this open face right here to measure and get my dimensions so I can cut the new pieces. Okay, I have this bottom trim off all the way. Right there, the two pieces of trim met, and there was a fair amount of water getting in there. It's pretty soft. And over here, right in this corner, this is the bulkhead. This corner is all very soft. You can see this kind of all fell apart. So I think I might replace this 2x6 with a pressure treated one all the way along. It's also a little soft at that far end by the hose bib. And I'm trying to figure out, you know, if there's a better way to do this. I'm going to add flashing, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it as good as I can. I'll replace this with pressure treated because this does sit on the stones. It's very close to the ground and it gets splashed back, you know, when it rains. But yeah, it's a little more damage than I was hoping to see. Here's what I've got. I'm using this kind of like a drip cap flashing that I've kind of bent to, I don't know if you can tell, but it's not quite a 90 degree here, because this is angled down at approximately 13 degrees. So that flashing is tucked under the clapboard. Ideally it would be under the tar paper, but I can't get that all the way along. So I'm gonna go with under the clap, and that'll be an improvement over what was here. So then under that is gonna be a 1x4 that's ripped down with the angle, and then there's gonna be a 1x6 onto this face that's gonna extend down a little bit to kind of hide that. The 1x4 cap will come out, and it's gonna be all painted the same color. So you won't ever know that flashing is there, but it's just gonna keep the water from getting into that assembly. And the worst spot is right down here. This bulkhead is a problem, but this got all wet and kind of rotten out. Now this is not structural at all, it's just basically a facade. So I'm gonna leave it, not too worried about it, but the water was just getting in right in this corner. So I gotta rebuild this bulkhead at some point. so I don't want to put a lot of time into that, but we'll get it caulked at least. Okay, I got that piece just setting in there. It's not attached at all yet. I've got to kind of push it in, and then I think what I'm going to do, because the old one was just nailed straight down through the top into this 2x6 here. So I think I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to try to fold up the flashing and try to get the screw under the flashing into here so that the screw head is protected under that flashing and hopefully doesn't let any water through. That's another thing that was happening. All those nails were like rusted and completely rotted out. So I'll attach that. I'm going to be putting a 1x6 right here. So that basically matches the rest of the house. So we'll put that there. I got to go through and nail, I think, these two courses, maybe a little bit on this third one up. And then I got to get my last piece of corner trim. Better plan. I just slid the flashing out the end here. So I'll screw that in, and then I'll come back and I'll slide the flashing back in. That'll be way easier. All right, so that's all fastened. I think that came out pretty well. Looks like it's pretty straight. I overlapped, it's two pieces of flashing. I overlapped it going this way so that from the front, when you approach the house, you don't see that. I'm running out of daylight, so I think I'm going to clean up my tools and I'll do the last piece on the bottom tomorrow and that corner, and then this will be done. All right, got that board on. This is done. Obviously needs to be painted and everything, but that looks pretty good. And then we get to here. This does not look good. It was all rotten at the bottom there, so I replaced this section. And the issue is, if I put this up tight, you can see how much the other board overlaps. That's a solid 3/4 of an inch up at that top corner. And it's just because this was attached, well, not really even attached. I can put my finger up in behind it. It's so far from the building. I don't know what happened there, but so now I gotta figure out how to deal with that. And I don't know. I may try to shim out the backside as much as necessary so it at least is pretty flush right here. And then try to kind of screw that tight and then screw it tight at the bottom, and then maybe it'll twist. Not really sure. I'm kind of moving on to other things because I don't know how to handle that. I think this is going to be probably as good as I'm going to get. I'll show you what I've done here. I've just screwed a little shim of just scrap material on the back. So when I put that in there, that is pretty much right in line on the top. Now, if we actually get it in, it's also pretty good. Like right now, it's pretty right about where I want it on that edge. The thing is, I'm gonna have to twist this. It's like the bottom is good there, but the top sticks out. So I think I'm gonna attach the bottom. I'm gonna attach this corner, and I'm gonna try to force that in to twist that. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we'll see. All right, that's not bad. It's pretty good up top there. And don't know if you can really tell, but that is pretty consistent along the side. It's probably as good as I'm going to get. This corner is really not looking so good, but doing my best. I realized when I went to put on my, this is just to make it look better. It doesn't even serve any function. But I realized that I had stopped my flashing here and this top cap here. What I should have done is I should have run my top cap probably out to this plane. Would have been good, or even out all the way to here. It would have overhung quite a bit. That's okay, and I could run my flashing out to there. It's not what I did. So then when I went to put this on, ideally this would have been this high and the top cap would have come over it, but so I cut it to go flush with the top, and then I snuck another piece of flashing behind everything, so at least water that runs down here will run out. But the problem now is that I've got this seam right there, so water will probably get in that seam and get down inside. So it's just got a couple screws in it for now. I wanted to kind of see how it worked. Now that I know that it's going to sort of work, it's not great, but I'm going to take those off, and I'm going to put caulking all behind this to seal up that joint along the top and along this edge. So this should be sealed, you know, from water getting in there, and then I'll put the screws back in. Tomorrow's task after finishing the other side is to come over here and basically do the same thing. You can see I put my finger into it this morning. This is completely just, see, yeah, just falling apart. So I gotta rip this all off, all the way back to the bulkhead there, and do the same thing. The only challenge over here is I've got this electrical conduit that goes to my lamp. So I'm gonna have to work around that. It's gonna be a little tricky. I don't know. If it's easy to pull it out, I will. But we'll just see how it goes. This is pretty wild. This wood is just absolutely sopping wet. I mean, you can squeeze water out of it. It is crazy. I don't know. I mean, it didn't rain yesterday. It didn't rain. It's been a few days since it rained, actually. I mean, it's like dew overnight, but it's just holding water like crazy. So I'm a little nervous what we're going to find behind here. Nothing to do but to tear it out, though. Well, we got that off. This is wet. This is gross. This end is toast. Basically, this whole top side is just falling apart all along. So I think I'm gonna have to replace that. Especially, I mean, this corner is really bad. Over here, that's all gone. The kicker is that this goes under the bulkhead. This is the inside of that same board, and the bulkhead, basically the framing of the bulkhead is nailed to that. So I have no idea how I'm going to get that out of there without disassembling this entire bulkhead, which is not what I want to be doing. So I don't know. I got to think about this, but it's a lot of water sitting in there. Well, things have gone from unfortunate to problematic. obviously I've done a little more excavation, and this 2x6 on the outside is rotten. We knew that. This sheathing also rotten and disappeared. I believe, I don't know if you can see into this, but I'm pretty sure I'm touching the inside wall, the interior wall of the house, and that's just full of critters, and that's like our interior wall gunk, so that's great. The other thing, so I'm pretty sure this right here is the, I can't tell if that's oak, but nonetheless that is our sill plate. And right here you can see the vertical corner post, I believe. And then right here is end grain of the front sill plate. So the good news, I guess, is that the sill plate it's damp, but it's not rotted out. It looks like the pine sheathing took the worst of the hit here. So I probably, how are we gonna fix this? This is coming off because I think it's even wet. Like back here, the sheathing is not good. So it looks like we might have a split right here. Now this is all tongue and groove sheathing, so I can't just pry it off. It's gonna snap the tongue, but I don't know, I might take this piece of clap off and maybe excavate back to about here and kind of see what's going on. And then I may be able to just put a new piece of sheathing all in here. I'm gonna probably have to get rough cut because I believe this is 1 inch thick. So I'm gonna have to get some 5/4 or rough cut 4/4. Yeah, obviously this has got to come off, and hopefully that's the extent of it. I don't see, it doesn't continue up over here. This corner is dry, so I really think it's just that water was getting in right here and just sitting right on that thing and just eating the wall away. So it's part of the joys of owning an old house. Oh, also, I broke more trim trying to get this corner board off right here. I broke this corner board on the other side. It's got this like rounded bead. I'm unable to find that locally. I looked at a couple stores. There's still a chance I might be able to get it custom ordered, or I may have to get a knife and mill my own. But nonetheless, basically from here down, it's like maybe 3 feet is broken. So that's unfortunate. And I'm not sure what we're gonna do about that right now either. One problem at a time. And that's a pretty big one. After a little more vacuuming and investigation, I realized that this is just like a 2x4, basically, going vertical, and the actual corner post is over here, which would make sense. Also, I don't know if you're going to be able to see in there. Hard to tell, but yes, that is lath, I think we're looking at the back of right there. So we have like a corner cupboard in this room right here, so I'm pretty sure that's like the back wall of the corner cupboard. I do believe that this timber here is oak. You can see the corner is a little soft right there. So I am going to end up cutting back here and just kind of seeing what's going on. Alright, I just pulled off the next course of clapboard and the starter strip, and I cut the tar paper back, kind of see what we're working with. That's the spot that I had seen the other day. So this is soft in here and soft back over here. So I think what I'm gonna do, well, I want to pull this board off because this thing is rotten pretty much, well, at both ends, in the middle, and like I said, I can't really get that end out of it, but maybe I can cut it right at the bulkhead and at least get this end off. Once I get that off, I think I can pry this bottom board of sheathing. Maybe I can get that off and just replace it. The sheathing is shy of 7/8. It's a little more than 3/4. So I may just use some 3/4 plywood that I have and just patch that in. We'll see. But I gotta get this off first. So how this is built, this bottom board of sheathing actually goes all the way down to the top of the sill and potentially even below the sill. And then this thing was attached more or less just to give it like some interest, I guess. It's not really necessary on this side, but I think on the front, they put that there to get, because the foundation sticks out actually past the sill. And so they probably put that on to kind of get the water out from the foundation, which makes sense. But I think what I'm going to do a little different is, once I get this off and replace this bottom board, I'm going to, I think, run my tar paper down, over, and down so that there's no moisture that can get into there. I might think about this a little bit more and see if there's a better way that I can retrofit this. But I want to open that up so it can dry. I got like 4 days of nice dry weather coming up, so I want to get this dried out and then I can rebuild it. Alright, there's that bottom board off. Now I'm going to see if I can't get the sheathing off. You can see, I mean, water was sitting right there. I can put my finger right into it. This is actually pretty dry down here, but it definitely has been wet at some point. What I'm not sure is if that board, let me look here. I'd bet you that board comes clear straight across. And it's probably this board right here that I'm looking at. So I think I'll have to cut that. I'll have to cut that out here. Now over here, let me see if this is damaged. It is actively wet and rotten right along there. So I think I'm gonna cut this sheathing right along there too. Let me think about that before I do it. So looking here in this corner, I was mistaken earlier. The sill of this house has been replaced. This is just pine, and you can see in the end here, that's a triple 2x6 that they've basically built up to make the sill. So on one hand, that's, it's unfortunate that the original oak timbers are gone. But on the other hand, frankly, I'm really glad I don't have to deal with that. Because this house was in really rough shape a couple times in its life. Once around 1900 and again around 1960 something, mid-60s. And frankly, it's amazing it's still here. But I'm just glad I don't have rotten oak timbers that I have to jack up the house and get out of here. So somebody's already done that for me. Thank you. Now that I've got that bottom board off, I decided I'm going to cut it there because that's pretty good over there. It's just gets the rot out. You can kind of see a little better what's going on. I was partially mistaken. You can see right here, this is the old original sill plate, and then they switched to pine from here over, and it looks like a double. Maybe there's a third one in there, hard to tell. The other thing, I'm gonna clean all this up and get like the mouse house and all this junk out of here, but this is an original, I don't know what you'd call that. If that would be a Walger, I'm not sure what you'd call that, or a stud. And anyway, obviously well gone. So they've got 2x4 sistered on here and here and here. This looks like an original, or what's left of one here, an original here. So yeah, I believe the last time this wall was opened up was the 1968 renovation. So we're going on, what, 55 years? Hopefully my repairs will last longer than 55 years, but even so, I guess that's not terrible. Let me get this cleaned up. So that mouse house was really insulation that they had stuffed up into the wall cavity. This right here, that's the original plaster and lath interior wall. My desk in our office is directly on the other side of that. So yeah, that's how our walls are built. And this looks like not even a 2x4, that's a 2x3, I'd say. Here you can see the scarf joint where they cut the old timber to kind of make their sill repair. And this old piece of timber here is actually currently wet from where it was leaking getting in there. So I'm glad we're opening this up. I'd love to leave this to dry out for a little bit longer. The problem is we're gonna get we're supposed to get a big tropical storm this weekend, and I don't want this getting all wet with the wind and the rain, so I'm gonna try to get it covered up. But yeah, it's looking, let's see, any goodies in there? Just clean that one up, and then we'll put this all back together. I'm currently undecided whether I want to try to stuff any insulation or do any air sealing. Generally I'm all about making things airtight and well insulated, but a house like this, everybody says let your house breathe, it's supposed to breathe, and I think that's actually correct. It does need to dry. That's the problem. It needs to be able to dry. And so if I put a bunch of air barrier in here, spray foam for instance, that is not going to be good. I may try to jam some mineral wool in there, insulation. I know it's not going to do much, it's just a small little area, but it's better than nothing. And that'll still allow the air and the drying to happen. Just got a piece of plywood, 3/4 plywood that I had laying around, so got that in there. I'm gonna put this, that ledger board on again. I do have some pressure treated 2x6 I'm gonna use for that. I am going to have a slight problem, I think, because this old board that's there, you can see that's a little more than 1.5 inches, 1 5/8. And let's go look at the new ones. That is a little bit less than 1.5 inches. So we might have to shim it out. We'll see how it fits. All right, that's in. I did shim it out on this end to make it line up on the corner there so that my lines look all right. That's all the way on there. So I'm going to now, I'm going to put the top cap on here, and then I'll put the flashing over that, and then I'm going to put Tyvek underneath the tar paper and down and over the flashing. So I've already cut it, but I'm working on the top cap trim piece for the base that is it's angled at a 14-degree angle, and it meets the front side top cap piece comes in like this, and they meet at a 45-degree miter. And it's made a little trickier because this thing is sitting up a little bit on an angle like that. So to make sure that that cut was right, because it's not just a straight up and down 45 because of the angle, so it's kind of like crown molding. Like I'd have to tip the saw over a little bit. Or what I did, I used, this is a piece of the same material that was the cutoff from when I cut this edge. So it's the exact same angle. And I set it up against the fence. And then I set my trim piece on top of that. So you can see it's kind of like jacked up on the back at the same angle. It's not really in place right now, but the same angle that it would be when it's installed on the wall. And so then that allows me to get this, I cut this 45 at this angle, so it should fit a little better. Fingers crossed. I made a slight error. It's a little hard to see, but my new board is probably 1/8 to 3/16 lower than the old one, and so my new piece of trim is not sitting at the right height. So I think I'm gonna have to undo these screws most of the way down. You'll leave one at the end there, and I'm gonna pick this end up and then screw it back in so that it sits a little bit nicer and that corner doesn't look so bad. All right, there we are. That fits pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. This corner came out all right. This, I'm gonna replace this piece probably next spring. So for now, this will do. And just gotta screw that off. Then we can move on to flashing. I got the flashing on, and then I've got my Tyvek tucked underneath the tar paper over the top of the flashing. And then I'm going to put my clapboards back on. And then I think the corner, I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. Obviously, I need to replace this board, but the front trim piece that's broken has this detail that I can't replace unless I make one custom. So I may just leave that for now. I know it looks bad, but just to kind of get the holes closed up. And I also need to still cut this piece of trim here, but that I got to take this conduit out. That's going to be a little bit of a job, so that's next after I get the siding back on and get that corner board cut. Well, it didn't come out too bad, I guess. Not in love with this corner board. Mostly, well, two things. This joint here looks not great because the house leans so far to the back. I keep making straight cuts and it just it's not straight, so that doesn't look good. The other thing that I've realized is, you know, this trim here is broken and it's the bead is supposed to be flush with this face, so that's fine. But then you get down here and I'm like 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch back, and this is broken off, so it probably actually went all the way out to here. You can almost see the line. So I need that trim to be way out here, I guess, to even line up with that. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't know. I'm gonna leave it for now is what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna think about it over the winter probably. But other than that, clapboards are back on. That came out all right. And I just have, like I said, I just have that one piece left to put on the front, but I gotta get that power out of there, so that's gonna wait for another day. But that's just cosmetic. The water, you know, once this is painted and caulked, water should be staying out. Don't look at that bulkhead. Obviously that needs some work. I'm working on getting this electrical conduit out of the way so I can put that final piece of trim board on the face. I've already pulled the wires out. The problem I'm having, I'm trying to unscrew the piece that goes through the wall, and the problem is that they've bent it to reach where the box is, and so I can't really unbend it enough to get it to spin around because it keeps hitting the floorboards. So I think I'm about to cut this off out here. We'll pull it through inside, and then I'll end up having to buy new parts. The other problem is that this cover, it was essentially this plastic sheeting all piled up and this piece of flashing that was caulked on there with two like wood screws. This one's broken, that one's stripped out in the hole. So this box is kind of trash. So I'm hoping is that I can separate this from this pipe, and then I'll have to get a new box, and I'll probably run new conduit inside as well. But yep, it's never easy. Okay, success without cutting. Just kind of work that a little bit more, and I gotta pull that through the inside, but got the junction box off, so I'll get a new one of those. And but for now I can get this thing attached. I'm debating what to do about this hole here. You know, I cut notches and everything to slide it over that pipe, which I probably should have just removed this in the first place, but oh well, I can't go back now. So I may just leave it because it's not really doing anything harmful. It's just the sill plate of the house. So I don't know. It's gonna be a nice little spot for bees though, so I may fill it with foam, like spray foam. And you know, after I get the front board on, fill that little cavity. Not sure. All right, got that piece in. I'm done with the trim work. I need to do some caulking. I need to drill a hole for this power to get through there. We actually use this as our post lamp, and this is pretty important for us to be able to see out here, so I need to get this connected today again. Okay, got that in. That was a battle.